Hello, everybody. David Shuster here. The Trump administration is now losing some high-profile MAGA conservatives over the Epstein files. And a flurry of conservative influencers are demanding that Attorney General Pam Bondi resign or be fired. Let's start with right-wing commentator Tim Pool. Pool is accusing President Trump, Bondi, and others in the administration of a cover-up.
I ain't cutting Trump any slack. Now that we know that they've covered up the co-conspirator documents, there's a document saying that they were investigating co-conspirators Epstein. There's photos and videos of minors and children. Dan Bongino was like, look, a lot of these things were hearsay and, fake tips that were uncorroborated. All of that is true, but there's still no excuse for them not exposing these deep, dark, corrupt pedos. Like, I can understand. Yep. I can understand Bill Gates didn't do anything criminal. If it is true that he got an STD from Russian hookers and gave it to his wife on accident, that's not illegal. He got divorced. I can understand why it's embarrassing. And I can respect someone saying, please don't release that email. It's not material to anybody. It's just internal drama that's gross and embarrassing.
Yeah.
But there's other stuff in there, like that's already being brought up, that I would say is shocking to the conscience that Trump called it a hoax. Shocking.
That includes videos and photographs of underage girls being trafficked and abused. Still, as Tim Pool noted, Trump calls it all a hoax. In recent testimony to the U.S. House, Attorney General Pam Bondi defiantly echoed the Trump talking points about the Epstein scandal. Bondi even refused to apologize or offer any words of sympathy to Epstein victims who were in the hearing room. Bondi also refused to explain endless redactions of FBI interview notes. Newsmax, which is to the right of Fox News, said the Trump administration cover-up is bigger than Watergate. And Newsmax anchor Carl Higbie, while interspersing hearing clips, specifically blasted Attorney General Bondi and called her a failure.
You drew the short straw to try to uncover something hidden, like Massey said, for decades. Probably the biggest scandal since Watergate. But that's the job.
An example, I'm submitting these 302 forms that are entirely redacted.
You see why people like me are still thinking that this is a cover-up? A 302 form is an FBI interview with a suspect or a witness or something. Why are hundreds of them fully redacted? This is either a cover-up or it's incompetence. And I want somebody to go to jail for it. At a minimum, anybody involved with screwing this up should no longer work at the DOJ.
One of the House Democrats that conservatives usually hate the most is New York's Jerry Nadler. But Nadler asked Attorney General Pam Bondi a question at the hearing that even Higbie on Newsmax held up as crucial. Watch.
How many of Epstein's co-conspirators have you indicted? How many perpetrators are you even investigating?
First, you showed it. I find it.
How many have you indicted?
Excuse me. I'm going to answer the question.
Answer my question.
No, I'm going to answer the question the way I want to answer the question.
No,
Your
you're answer the
theatrics are
question the
ridiculous.
way I asked it.
Chairman Jordan, I'm not going to get in the gutter with these people.
Yeah, as much as I hate Democrats, it was a good question. And the answer is zero. This should not be a partisan issue. In America, we throw pedophiles in jail or wood chippers, period. Did we get any more answers? No, we got this stupid 1-800 number. Today's hearing made this a bigger story because parts of this are still being covered up, and America is not stupid. She should have just shown up with like a list of people like, hey, here's who we're charging today.
But Bondi could not explain why dozens of Jeffrey Epstein accomplices, instead of being charged, continue to have their names redacted or blacked out. In the meantime, Pam Bondi's Justice Department has outed hundreds of Jeffrey Epstein victims. And that violates the law that Congress passed and Donald Trump signed. At one point during the hearing, Bondi tried to argue that Democrats and a few Republicans are focused on the Epstein files only to damage or humiliate Donald Trump. Bondi insisted that Congress should examine the rising stock markets, including the Dow Jones Industrial Average, which just passed 50,000. Conservative columnist and radio host Eric Erickson wrote on X, when the Attorney General of the United States is asked why she has prosecuted no one related to Jeffrey Epstein, and this is her answer, she should be fired or resign. But neither will happen, which is another reason the Democrats are going to have a good election year. Pam Bondi has now even lost Nick Fuentes, a white supremacist and far-right podcaster. On the Fuentes show, he said Pam Bondi needs to be impeached. She lied about the existence of the files and lied about unindicted co-conspirators. Fuentes added that the head of the FBI, Kash Patel, should also be fired. And never mind the far-right folks, even conservative lawyers are in agreement with Democrats who say that Bondi, during the House hearing, lied under oath. Here's the key exchange between Bondi and Democrat Ted Lieu.
Donald Trump attended various parties with Jeffrey Epstein. I want to know, were there any underage girls at that party or at any party that Trump attended with Jeffrey Epstein?
This is so ridiculous, and that they are trying to deflect from all the great things Donald Trump has done. There is no evidence that Donald Trump has committed a crime.
Bondi testified under oath, there is no evidence Donald Trump committed a crime. Everybody knows that. Ted Lieu then introduced an FBI tip document alleging Donald Trump committed rape. Allegations, tips, and other claims are evidence. Now, until evidence is corroborated and allegations are confirmed in a court, it is evidence that cannot be used to convict a defendant. But Bondi didn't qualify her answer by saying there is no verifiable evidence or no proof Donald Trump committed a crime. She said there is no evidence. And everybody knows that. Legal scholars across the spectrum know that Bondi's testimony was sloppy and bizarre, and many of them are saying her testimony was false, and that Bondi could face a criminal charge of lying to Congress. Such a charge would have to be brought by the Justice Department, so Pam Bondi is clear for the next 3 years. But in the next administration, especially one led by a Democrat, the Department of Justice could play the Pam Bondi videotape to a grand jury and get a criminal indictment. And lying to Congress, when convicted, usually means a jail sentence. In other words, Bondi, down the road, could face criminal exposure. But that's just the legal troubles. More immediately, Pam Bondi faces a huge political problem. MAGA world conservatives have abandoned her. They're accusing Bondi of being at best incompetent and at worst engaged in a criminal cover-up. And in MAGA world, when you've lost Newsmax and are getting shredded by influencers like Tin Pool, you are finished. Pam Bondi may continue on as Donald Trump's attorney general, but she is the MAGA political equivalent of a dead woman walking. Did you know that the big wireless carriers like Verizon and AT&T made over $18 billion in profit last year? How? By overcharging you for unlimited data, most of which you probably aren't even using. But what if you could get paid to use your phone less and only pay for the data you do use? Well, with Noble Mobile, you can. For just $50 a month on their No Bull plan, you get unlimited data, and whatever data you don't use, you get cash back right in your pocket. People who switch to Noble can save an average of $500 to $1,000 a year. It's a no-brainer. And by switching to Noble, you're directly supporting TYT and our mission of bringing you honest, independent news. So give Noble a try and make the switch today. Scan the QR code on the screen now or visit go.tyt.com/plan. That's go.tyt.com/plan. By the way, an ICE agent recently imploded after a black officer stopped him for a DUI.
Are you Haitian?
That's nothing to do with my race, buddy.
My question was, are you Haitian?
In the Florida Keys, that is ICE agent Scott Deseroth. He keeps questioning the nationality of the police officer who pulled him over for a DUI.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where he's from. Okay. Look, man, I really need you to do the exercise. If you don't do it, then I'm going to say that you're refusing to do the exercise. I get it. You need a minute. I gave you a few minutes, okay? But
Let me talk to your supervisor.
Not right now, sir.
Check out that video at the link below. I'm David Shuster. Thanks for joining us.